Okay. Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining today's Building Energy and Water Scoring presentation for the City of Fort Collins. My name is Anthony Albano. I'm a program manager at Touchstone IQ, working in support of the City of Fort Collins, and I'm joined by my colleague Keisha Malling today. Today's session will be recorded and it'll be shared via email as well as posted online. We will be sure to save time at the end for Q&A, but if you have any questions come up along the way, please don't hesitate to just drop them into the chat function and we can try to get to those as we go. So here's an overview of some of the topics we'll be covering today. We'll first give an introduction to benchmarking. Then we'll dive into the Building Energy and Water Scoring program for the City of Fort Collins. We'll talk about things like compliance pathways, reporting, what to expect after submitting a report, as well as getting into waivers and some program updates. Then we'll move over to Energy Star Portfolio Manager, the commonly used tool for benchmarking. We'll give an overview of that tool as well as go through a live demo to kind of give you a sense for benchmarking 101, as this demonstration is intended to be for first-time reporters. And then we'll kind of round out this session with a review of some of the resources that are available to you, as well as open for a question and answer. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Keisha.
Right, so we're going to start off with what is benchmarking. So benchmarking is a widely known tool that compares your building's performance, including energy and water use, to other buildings of the same use type. For example, if you're a commercial building, you'll be compared to other commercial buildings of the similar use type and size and function. And there's like a lot of benefits of benchmarking also. So, as it says, it allows owners and occupants to understand your building's performance. It creates opportunities to advertise building performance and stand out in the marketplace. Also, creating these energy improvements are gonna be more attractive to tenants, which in turns, makes your building more desirable and improves occupancy. So, like I said, it helps cut energy and save money. Save money is like a big thing that we push with benchmarking. Having that awareness of your energy usage throughout time is a really significant tool that building owners can use to hopefully be more aware of their energy use from year to year. And sometimes they can actually even catch, if there is a boiler that is broken or broken HVAC system or anything like that. A lot of owners can catch those leaks or broken systems through tracking their energy usage. And of course, it improves our health and ensures resource security. So not only it makes our community safer and healthier to live in, it definitely makes it more attractive community to live in. All right, and so the City of Fort Collins Building Energy and Water Scoring Program. So this is a benchmarking ordinance that requires building owners to submit a whole building energy and water report to the city annually by June 1st every year. So the report is going to include your energy usage all 365 days of the previous year. So for example, the report that's due this year, June 1st, 2022, that's going to include from January 1st to December 31st of 2021. So we want that whole complete usage of your building's data. So wasted materials is not required for your building. This is an option on Energy Star, as Anthony will show you, but this is just something that, like I said, is an option, but it's not required. Water is also not required for this year. Last year it was required, but this year we're going to give building owners a break from that, and it will be required in following years. So this year it's just energy. So you're probably wondering who's required to report. So this was the last year of phasing all of the buildings in that's required to report for the Building Energy and Water Scoring Program. So this includes commercial, multifamily, and city-owned buildings, 5,000 square feet and above. So with multifamily, there are some exceptions. Buildings that are less than 3 stories, so 1 to 2 stories, they are not required to report. And townhomes and row houses are also not required to report for this program. So for compliance, you are to submit an error-free report before June 1st, the deadline, and to bring your in order to bring your building into compliance for the year. So there can be errors in your reports. The city will send you out notifications if there are errors in your reports, and you have to fix those and resubmit by June 1st. I'll go over that a little bit later in further slides down the line here, but this is super important. So compliance pathways. So speaking of compliance, there's two different compliance pathways. Like I said, you can submit a benchmarking report of your previous year's energy usage. And water, like I said, is not required this year, or you can submit a waiver. So there's certain circumstances where some buildings, are not required to report due to specific situations that their building is undergoing, and we'll go over that in later slides. So reporting, is the typical pathway towards compliance. It is completed online through the Energy Star Portfolio Manager, which Anthony will go over in a little bit. You'll kind of get a great immersion into, what this platform is all about and what kind of energy and details it requires. And submitting the initial report is the most time-consuming part. So it's going to include getting your building details entered into the Energy Star program, and then getting your energy and water usage into that platform. So getting that in, usually it takes 1 to 2 phone calls with us if you need some help with that, just to get you all situated. Some folks get lucky and they can use auto upload. Excel Energy and Fort Collins Utilities offers auto upload services, so you can link your Energy Star Portfolio Manager with auto upload, and they can go ahead and upload all of your data into Energy Star, which is a great service because then you don't have to go back through your files and manually enter each bill from the previous year into your Energy Star portfolio. So this is a great service, and we can help you along with that if needed, any step of the way. So kind of a summary of what you need to report. Again, Energy Star Portfolio Manager account, you need to log into that. You can create that. It's pretty quick. It's pretty much like making any kind of username and password for anything. And you enter your building information in. Depending on your building type, this can require certain details. So for example, if you're a medical office, it's going to ask you if you have certain energy consuming equipment, like CAT scan machines or anything like that. For offices, they're going to ask you how many employees you have, what are the hours of operation, the gross square footage for the building also. You're also going to want to put in your Fort Collins building ID. So the Fort Collins building ID is unique to your building, and it's always going to be FC as in Fort Collins, followed by a 4-digit number. So this is really important when you put this into your report. If you do not put this ID into your report, we will not be able to receive it once you submit it. So it's really important that you locate your ID and submit that. We can help you find your ID if you need help figuring that out. It is sent out in the physical mailers and in emails. We always announce what your ID is. So we'll go over that a little bit later. And then building and energy water usage is the next thing. And like I said, water is not required this year, but for this year's deadline. But energy, that's going to include your electric, natural gas, steam, propane, anything that you use to power your building. This also includes solar for those of you that are on the solar train there. We also want to see that usage reflected in Energy Star Portfolio Manager. So also the reporting link. So right now we have 2 reporting links up. Last year we gave folks a grace period to get all their energy usage in and to submit. So the 2021 reporting link is for those folks that were supposed to submit last year but still haven't because they're in that grace period. For the rest of you folks, the 2022 reporting link is the most important link for you. That's the link that you'll use to submit. The city will post a new link every single year. So you will have to go into the Building Energy and Water Scoring Program website and view that link in order to submit. Some folks think that when you set up auto upload with your Energy Star portfolio, it automatically feeds information into us. But the important thing to remember is that Energy Star Portfolio Manager is a federal platform. So you have that platform, you have all your information there, but in order for the city to get that information, you have to manually submit your report every year through the newest link. And it'll always be labeled the newest year. So 2022 reporting link is the link you want to use, and next year's will be the 2023 reporting link. So that's just something really important to note. All right, so when is my report due? This is kind of a great timeline of how commercial multifamily buildings were phased in over time. The city didn't want to just get all the buildings 5,000 square feet and above just phased in all at once in 2019. So they did a step-by-step phase-in program from 2019 to present day. So currently, all buildings that are required to report are currently in this year. So 2022 was the last year phase in. So everybody that needs a report is included in this year's report requirements. So that includes, like I said before, commercial multifamily and city-owned buildings that are 5,000 square feet and above. All right, so what to expect after submitting a report. So this is pretty important. So in compliance notification is, going to be when you have an error-free report and no further action is needed. And you can also receive a pending revisions notification. So pending revisions means that you have errors in your report and you do need to go back and fix these errors and resubmit in order for the city to consider your building in compliance. So for example, say that, your natural gas data didn't include all of 2021, say it was missing the last 2 months of 2021, and you submitted that data, that would be incomplete, and that would, show that you have errors. So you would have to add those last 2 months and resubmit in order to come into compliance. And we're not necessarily looking at your data because you're using too much energy or not enough. It's for data quality, right? So we want to make sure that all of that data that you're submitting to us is ensured and really good data. So it reflects all of your building's usage properly, and that's what we want out of your report. So when you do submit on Energy Star, you're looking for 2 emails. The first email you're going to receive within probably 2 or 3 minutes of your submission, and that's going to come from Energy Star Portfolio Manager. And that just says that, hey, you submitted your report, and then within 24 hours, you'll receive a second email, and that's the most important email. That email will come from the city of Fort Collins, and that will tell you if you are in compliance or not. So usually if you submit your report, it gets pulled into our system overnight. And then the next day is when you get that notification if you're in compliance or not. So if you don't get that email within the next day, by the next morning or afternoon, please reach out to us and we'll be happy to troubleshoot and let you know if your report is in compliance or not. And if you do receive a pending revisions email, then reach out to us and we can help you work through those errors and show you how to resubmit. All right, so waivers. We talked about waivers as being a second option to submit your benchmarking report. So here's here's all of the options of why you can submit a waiver. So the CRS 25-7-142, that is in reference to the statewide benchmarking program, which I will get into in the next couple slides here. So if your building meets the requirements of the same waiver exemptions that the statewide program offers, then you can apply for a waiver for the city of Fort Collins. And here's a list here of a couple of reasons why you can submit your waiver. For example, a demolition permit was issued for the entire building, or the covered building does not meet a qualifying utilities aggregation threshold. Some other waivers include, your building had an average physical occupancy of less than 60%. The definition of occupancy kind of gets a little hairy sometimes. For example, occupancy means that, Was your building actually operating as normal, or was it going under significant renovations or construction? So you had the heat turned off for your building. That's what occupancy means. Another example is, your building has confidential business practice. So some buildings do have certain business practices that they cannot release their energy data. So that's another waiver form that people can submit. So if you have any questions on that, again, reach out to us and we can help you look through those options, see if your building qualifies, and help you submit your waiver. All right, so program updates. So we got updates for the Building Energy and Water Scoring Program and for Building Performance Colorado, which is the new statewide program, which I was mentioning. So for the Building Energy and Water Scoring Program, again, water is not required this year. That's one update. Another update is just the remainder of the phased-in buildings are required to report this year, which are multifamily and commercial buildings, 5,000 square feet and above. So now the state of Colorado has implemented a benchmarking program for the entire state. This is called the Building Performance Colorado program. So this is a statewide benchmarking program, and they require single structure buildings in the state of Colorado that are 50,000 square feet and above to submit their energy data, and only their energy data, to the state. So for those folks that are watching, if your building is 50,000 square feet or above, or if you believe it's in that range, close to 50,000 square feet, please reach out to Building Performance Colorado. They're great folks. They can help you out with any questions that you may have and if your building qualifies. So something important to know about the statewide and the city program is that when you submit your report to the city, the submission link is now a 2-in-1 link. So when you submit to the city, you're also submitting to the state for those of you that are 50,000 square feet and above. So when, say your building is 50,000 square feet and you submit to City of Fort Collins program, it'll run through an algorithm, and if it's 50,000 square feet and above, then it'll also submit to the state. So there's no need to go to a separate link or to a separate website to submit to the state if you're already reporting to the City of Fort Collins. So that's really important to know. And if you also have to report to the state, you keep your Fort Collins ID. You don't need to reassign yourself a new ID. You keep the FC and the 4-digit ID. You don't have to put in a Colorado ID. The Colorado ID is only for those who don't already have to report to a city. So you just keep that ID. You don't have to change any of that. You just keep all that the same, and you'll get a notification from the state if you're in compliance or not.
Great, thanks, Keisha. I appreciate you kind of setting the stage a little bit about the Fort Collins benchmarking program. So as Keisha mentioned, the tool that we use for compliance is Energy Star Portfolio Manager. This is a free online tool offered by the the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, and it's a tool that can be used for tracking energy consumption, water, waste, GHG emissions. It's really a really helpful tool. And it allows owners to benchmark the performance of their own building, and so they can either compare their kind of current time frame to their past time frame to see how energy use and water use has changed over time. But the tool also allows for a comparison, a national comparison of other similar like buildings. So you can kind of see how your fire station might match up to fire stations across the country. So why benchmark with Energy Star Portfolio Manager? The common phrase is you can't manage what you don't measure. And so Portfolio Manager is really a measurement tool, and then it allows you to make management decisions out of the data that you input. It's also widely used. So more than 250,000 commercial buildings each year use the tool. So it's definitely an industry best practice. And the tool allows for 80+ different property types. So everything from schools to offices, retail stores, movie theaters, it can get really specific. And then the tool also allows you to break down use types. Perhaps you have an office building that has a movie theater within it, or a restaurant. You can kind of break down the use by square footage. And the key output is energy use intensity, or EUI, which is a measurement of your annual energy use on a per square foot basis. And this is really the key part that allows for like an apples to apples comparison between buildings. Another nice output is a 1 to 100 Energy Star score. So I was talking about how the tool can be used to measure your building against other similar buildings, and this is really the key metric that allows for that. And so what it indicates is a score of 50 would be a median score, whereas a score of, let's say, 70 would indicate that your building's operating more efficiently than 70% of the buildings of that similar use type in the marketplace. And then if your building is reaching a score of 75 or above, that kind of puts you into Energy Star certification territory, which means that you can apply to the EPA and have your building designated as Energy Star certified, which really just means that you are a very efficient building, and it allows you to kind of get a little plaque or sticker cling that you can put on your building to promote that achievement. And on average, Energy Star has found that Energy Star certified buildings are about 35% more efficient on average. And 21 of those property types, so 21 out of the 80 plus, are eligible for Energy Star certification. And here's a look at some of those property types. So everything from courthouses to offices, wastewater treatment plants, these are all eligible for Energy Star certification and scores. So we're going to switch gears a little bit here and jump into the live demo portion of the training today. So for today's demo, I'm going to walk through the process of how to benchmark a commercial office building in Portfolio Manager. It's really a three-step process. And so first, you want to navigate to energystar.gov/benchmark. And if you scroll down on the right-hand side of the screen, there's a place where you can input your username and password. If you have not yet created an account, you can simply click Create an Account. And it walks you through a quick setup phase where you can enter your username, password, email, things of that sort. Everything is adjustable later on, except for your username. And this is public facing, so you want to just make sure you use something appropriate here. Once you have an account set up, you can log in. And so I've already done so, and this is kind of the landing page that you see when you first log into the tool. So we'd like to think of benchmarking as a three-step process. The first step is to add a property, then add a meter to that property, and then add energy consumption to that meter, and thus that property. So the first thing we want to do here is just like take a quick look at the tool itself and give you a little bit of a lay of the land. So on the top here, you can see there's a place for account settings. We also have notifications, as well as Energy Star notifications, contacts, where you can add or delete contacts. Works similar to a kind of a social media friend request, where you have to search for an account, send that person a request, and then they have to log in and accept that request. And then we also have the help page. So this is really key. There's a bunch of resources about FAQs, a full glossary of terms, some trainings available. So this is a really great place to look if you get stuck. And of course, you can always reach out to us, and we're happy to provide support as well. Okay. So the other piece here is these 4 different tabs. So we've got the My Portfolio tab, which is where we're going to add a property in just a minute. We also have the Sharing tab, where you can share properties from one account to another, and the Reporting tab. So this is where you'll eventually see your reporting link from the City of Fort Collins once you've clicked that and found it on their website. Okay, so let's go back to My Portfolio. And again, we're going to walk through that 3-step process of adding a property, adding a meter, and adding consumption to that meter, and thus that property. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click Add a Property. And first, we need to decide what type of property type the building is. If you have questions about that, you can click this tab here to learn more. And one other thing I'll point out is there's a lot of helpful tips along the right-hand side of the screen. So if you get stuck, I'd recommend taking a quick look here to see if that might answer your question. Okay, so I'm going to navigate down to Office. We then need to decide if this is just one building that we're looking to benchmark or multiple. In this case, it's going to be one. And then we need to decide if this property is in construction or if it's an existing building. So you can choose between these two options. For today, this is going to be a test demonstration, so we're going to choose test property, but this process will operate exactly as if it was an existing building. We can go ahead and click Get Started. And then we need to add some details about the property. So here we can add the name. So Collins Live Demo. Main Street. Put this building in Fort Collins. And then another thing I like to point out is that if you hover over the blue terms, the glossary pops up. So if you have any questions about what some of these items might mean, you can just hover over and it gives you a good sense. Okay, year built, I'll go with 1991. Gross floor area, we'll say 9,700 feet. And irrigated area is 0. Occupancy at about 90%. And here, here's where you can enter a standard ID for the city of Fort Collins. So what you want to do is navigate down to Fort Collins building ID, and then you can locate the building ID using the Fort Collins website. So you can search for by your address and then enter the ID in here. Since this is a demo property, I won't actually have an ID to enter, so we can leave this blank for now. But you'll be sure to want to enter your ID here. And then the last step is to check if any of these different criteria apply, if you have parking, data center, etc. For the purpose of this demo, we'll assume that none of those apply, so we can go ahead and click continue. I'm just going to go ahead and remove the ID here for this demo, but again, you'll want to make sure that you enter it here. Okay, so you'll see some of the basic information that we entered on the previous screen, such as the name and location. If you need to edit that anytime, you can just click this edit button here. We'll assume that looks good. So the next part is entering some building use information. You'll see this 9,700 square feet popped up from the previous screen. Then we need to go ahead and enter some other criteria. Again, these blue terms, you can hover over and see the glossary, and then you'll notice that 5 out of the 6 also have stars. So this indicates that the use detail is used to calculate the 1 to 100 Energy Star score. And another thing you'll see on this screen is the mention of default or temporary values. You want to make sure not to use those because it will trigger a flag from the city of Fort Collins. Default values indicate that it might not be an accurate value. You want to make sure to enter your actual weekly operating hours, workers on main shift, etc. And then temporary value is really used if you just want to enter a value, but make sure you come back to it later, which is another indication that it might not be as accurate as possible. So again, you want to enter this information. We'll assume this property has 60 weekly operating hours. There are 20 workers on main shift, and we'll give each of them a computer. Percent that can be heated, we'll say 50% or more, and same for cooled. So if that all looks good, we can go ahead and click Add Property. And what you'll see at the top of the screen is this green notification box. So Portfolio Manager is really good about providing a feedback loop. So just letting us know, congratulations, you have successfully created this property. And that really completes step 1. So the next step we want to take here is adding energy data to this property through adding a meter. So what we can do is first kind of take a quick look at this summary page for this property. This is the I meant to say Fort Collins Test Live Demo, but Fort Test Live Demo. And what we can do is take a quick look at the summary page where some of our metrics will pop up. This is also where the data quality checker is, which will run shortly. We also have the details tab where you can see some property notes. I can save a task note. And then we get to the energy tab. So this is where we can add energy meters to this property. So we're going to go ahead and click Add a Meter. So in this case, we're going to add one electric meter and one natural gas meter. We'll assume that electricity is purchased from the grid, and we'll also click the box for natural gas, 1 meter for each. We can go ahead and click Get Started. And here we're brought to the meters page to add a little bit more detail. So we can enter different values right into these fields by clicking in. So let's say we want to call this test, natural gas, and sample electric meter. This can be helpful if you want to name, if you perhaps have 3 different electric meters, you might be able to name one, barn electric meter or, main electric meter. It just helps kind of keep things organized. So then you need to decide what units these are in. So for the natural gas meter, we're going to go with kBTU. Of course, you want to make sure that this aligns with your utility bills. And then date meter became active. We're going to go ahead and benchmark 2 years worth of data here. But again, for 2022 compliance, you just need to benchmark 2021. And we then go down to the electric meter and select kWh. And I do want to point out that this date meter became active. You want to make sure that first date aligns with the first date on your utility bill. So oftentimes utility bills might be in the middle of the month, November 15th through December 15th. So in this case, it's pretty rare that a utility bill actually starts on the first of the month. So I just wanted to flag that even though I use that for this demo. Okay, we can go ahead and create these 2 meters. And what we're going to do now is enter use data for these 2 meters. So at this point, we've completed step 2 of the 3 steps. We've added a property to the portfolio manager, and then we've added meters to that property. And here's the part where we need to add consumption data to those meters. So the first one here is natural gas. I'm going to go ahead and expand that. I just want to point out that you could manually enter all of your bills right here, simply entering, start date, end date on a monthly basis, and then the usage. This can be helpful if you're just adding maybe 1 or 2 months of data at a time. If you're looking to update a year or more worth of data, I'd recommend using the spreadsheet upload tool. So let me just delete this manual entry, and I'm going to click into this single meter spreadsheet for the natural gas meter. So this downloads an Excel file. Just want to pull up and show you an example of what a blank one looks like. And you can see there's 5 different columns here, 4 of which are required and 1 is optional. So cost is always optional in Portfolio Manager, but it can be helpful if you're looking to make financial decisions. So I'm going to close this out as I've already populated data elsewhere. And here's an example of what the spreadsheet looks like with data populated. So what you can do is simply grab the data using copy and paste. You can exclude the headers. And again, I'm benchmarking 2020 and 2021 data here, but for Fort Collins, the 2022 reporting year only requires 2021 data. So I'm going to go ahead and click in here, and I'm going to right click and select paste. And just like that, all the data populates from my spreadsheet right into Portfolio Manager. So this gives you another quick chance to make sure everything looks good. If it does, you can scroll down and then we can work on the electric grid meter. So similarly, you can click right in, enter the data manually, or you can use the single meter spreadsheet. I'm going to also click and open this one because I want to point out that the sample spreadsheets are different. So you can see here there are 7 different columns for electric data. So you cannot use the natural gas spreadsheet to upload electric data, vice versa. They're all a little bit unique, so you just wanted to point that out. So in addition to that copy and paste method that I showed you, you can also simply click choose file if you have the data saved already, which I do. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that from my desktop. And you can see my FOCO test electric meter has been selected, and I'm going to go ahead and upload it now. And again, this is my test natural gas at the top, and here is my electric meter down below. So if this all looks good, we can go ahead and click continue. And again, it indicates that our meters have been added to this property. But one final step here is that we need to indicate if these 2 meters account for all the energy consumption at this property. So it could be the case that your property has several different meters, and this allows you to toggle between the meters to indicate if some or all of them apply to the energy consumption. If they do, you can go ahead and click this option here that these meters account for all the energy consumption at the property, and then you can go ahead and click Apply Selections. So just like that, the benchmarking process is done. We have not yet submitted data to the city, but just wanted to point out that the 3-step process of benchmarking in Portfolio Manager is complete, and you see this green notification at the top. Congratulations. So let's take a quick look and see what the data shows. You can see our current score, our Energy Star score is 71. So this indicates that in 2021, this property is operating pretty much more efficiently than 71% of offices in the US. And then you can see this baseline score. So this is really the reason I wanted to benchmark 2 years of data, is that so you can see the comparison over time. So this indicates that in 2020, this building was operating a little bit less efficiently than it was in 2021. And if we go to the summary page, here's another way of visualizing this data. So we can see our 2020 column here and our 2021 column here. And this kind of percent change column is a helpful indication. So it looks like our score increased by 8 points over that time frame, or 12.7%. And then it also calculates the source and site EUI, as well as some GHG metrics. And let's say you wanted to see different metrics here. What you could do is simply click in. Let's say we really wanted to see site EUI as our key metric. You could toggle that view here. And again, kind of inverse to Energy Star score is site EUI. So a high Energy Star score is good, and a low EUI is good. So one other thing I wanted to show was how to report data. So I'm going to go ahead and copy the URL. And here is the 2022 data request from Fort Collins. So I'm going to scroll down. You can read the instructions where you can learn more. You cannot select the time frame because this has already been chosen for you by the city. But what we can do is select which properties we want to respond with. And you can see my current selection is 0. So let's go ahead and select. And my Fort Test Live Demo, I'm going to go ahead and click on that one and then scroll down, apply the selection. And you can see that we now have 1 property selected. And if that's the only property you're looking to respond with, you can go ahead and generate a response preview. I'm going to first preview that response. What you can do is download it in Excel. And this essentially shows you the data that will be used to submit to the city. So Fort Test Live Demo, and then some of the data that is being collected. So if that all looks good, we can go back to the reporting tab. We can then click Send Response. So just important to note that just because you have previewed a response, it does not submit it to the city. You will not receive any sort of confirmation email until you click Send Response. So what you can do is essentially CC others on your response if needed. And then you need to certify that the data is being released, and you can e-sign your response. And then you get a little green check mark. And then what you can do is send data. Because this is a test, I'm not going to go through and click the send data. But if I were, I would then get a email from Portfolio Manager. And like Keisha mentioned, then probably the next day you would get a confirmation from the city of Fort Collins. So that pretty much wraps up the live demo portion. Let me switch gears and go back to the slideshow. So that demo really was intended to kind of take you through that process of benchmarking all the way through the setup phase for creating a building, adding meters to that property, and then adding energy consumption to that data. Like Keisha mentioned, there's also the opportunity to set up automated utility exchange with the utilities. So that's something you can do by visiting their website, kind of using their user guide, or giving us a call at our help center. We're more than happy to walk you through that process of setting that up. So yeah, just wanted to quickly show some resources. Again, these slides and the recording will be shared around afterwards and posted online, so you can click through some of these links. Okay, and just wanted to open the floor to Q&A. And Keisha, have you seen any questions come through at this point? Through the chat or anything?
Not yet.
Okay. And I think we'll just give it another minute and see if there's any questions. And if not, we can probably wrap things up a little bit early. Okay, hearing none, I think we will conclude today's presentation, but thank you all for joining. And again, keep an eye out for a follow-up email with the slide deck and the recording. So thank you all. Take care.
Thank you.